you can control the sales process, but you're not trying to control the person. You're just trying to
Mm.
control how it rolls out and how it develops. My philosophy really is just developed from that. There's just a nicer way to do it because I believe in having clients for life. Corporation has goals for their people. That's what it takes to keep the job. That's your requirement. It's not your goal at all. Your goal is up to you.
Hello and welcome to the Differentiation podcast. My name is Michèle Sorgaroli and I'm your host. And today's guest is Mark Kempf. Now, Mark is the author of Unfurl Your Sales. But Mark didn't actually start out as an author. Originally, he wanted to be a teacher. But after a few summers apprenticing as an electrician, and enduring some uninspired years in university, apparently, he pivoted into sales, a career that even he didn't see coming, apparently. Supported by his lovely wife of 45 years and his odd will, in his words, to excel and improve, he then spent more than 40 years mastering a respectful, high integrity selling style. Mark retired at the end of 2024, and he now focuses on sharing the sales methods that he learned that made his career so genuinely rewarding. Thank you for joining us, Mark. This is a
Well,
treat.
thank you. That was a wonderful introduction.
Aw.
I appreciate it.
Well, it's always fun to get to know people, and I'm just delighted that we're going to have this conversation going forward. Now, I'm curious because not only did you say that, you didn't expect to see sales coming, and you've told me a little bit about yourself, and I've read a little bit about you. Um,
Right.
Uninspired time in university, pivoting into sales. But you said that, interestingly, at university, there was something there that indicated that insurance sales was in your top five
Right.
potentials, even at a time
Yeah.
when you weren't even thinking insurance or sales at all.
No. Well, it's quite an interesting little tidbit. So, we were actually married our last year at university,
Oh my
and
gosh.
I thought I'd be a teacher, but teaching school had just gone from 1 year to 2 years, and then we were kind of tired of living like poor students. And I happened to see a poster at university for a career counseling kind of course, and so I went to the meeting, and when I met the instructor, explained I was thinking of teaching, and she said, "There are no jobs. Like there
Oh,
are no jobs." And
oh,
in fact, we had a friend who was a few years ahead of me, and she had had to go way far north, like Arctic Circle kind of north, to get
oh,
any
wow.
experience at all,
Oh,
and then
wow.
come back and get a job in a board. So we realized we could just live like poor students for 2 years and not get a job, right? So
Right.
that did not have any attraction at all. Um, Part of that meeting the
Uh,
counselor, though, was to do a functionality test for occupation fit. And
okay.
insurance sales, of all things, was in the top five, which made absolutely no sense to me at the time because I was quite a shy person and,
Oh,
and not at all the image of a salesperson, let's say. So I
exactly.
thought that seemed like nuts. But the other four, or even the other nine in the top 10 were, all going to mean a lot more schooling. And so that was out.
Oh my
Yeah, so it's
gosh.
funny. So when I needed a job about a year later, and then there's an advertisement for insurance sales, I thought, well, I'll answer it, who knows? And I must say, there was some assuredness, let's say,
Hmm.
that maybe there might be something worth even contacting them just because of that prior test with the
Right.
occupational coach. So a funny little thing that, probably shouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
I kind of credit my past self. I've always, so long ago, it seems like a different person. But my past self decided that was a good idea to spend an hour or two with that counselor.
Hmm.
Yeah, probably my wiser younger self than my older self.
Well, it's funny, isn't it? Because even though you chose to make that investment of time with the career counselor, these top 10, like you said, nine of them required more schooling, and the other one, you're like, well, that's kind of nonsense. That makes no
Yeah,
sense to me. So it's funny what we do is we're like,
yeah.
oh, I'll go and invest in this advice, and they'll tell me, and then we hear it, we're like, no, that's not a fit at all. But it's funny because a year later, that little niggling piece of information was floating there when you decided to make the pivot
Yeah,
and make
yeah,
that application. And
yeah.
you have said that not only was sales a great career for you, but also insurance sales was the exact right type of selling. I think I saw that
Right.
somewhere. Can you tell us a little bit about what you mean when you say that?
Yeah. I'll say how dumb lucky I was in all this. I really can hardly take any credit for it at all. But insurance sales has, of course, an image.
Mm,
Oh, well, just a little quick aside. When
yeah.
I was in management, I did some research on acceptability of the occupation. I was trying to hire people to the occupation. At the time, there had been a survey done, and of the 100 occupations listed, where people would tick off by order and number what occupation they trusted, life insurance sales was in the bottom 10.
Yeah.
When they asked the same person, what's your representative of that occupation? Insurance sales was in the top 10. So the industry itself was doing a good job, just the image was suffering.
Oh, isn't that
And
interesting?
I had the same image, of course,
Yeah.
So, but I think the reason it was in the top 10 of that occupational test was because it's about helping people.
Mm,
And I'm not saying everyone that's in the occupation helps people or everyone has the same dedication to it or
hmm
or has it, but then loses it out of the needs of the occupation, let's say. But I always loved that part. And fortunately, I worked for an insurance company early that gave me a lot of orphan clients. So, and although I didn't make a lot of sales from those orphan clients, there was quite a few elderly people in there. I was
Oh,
settling death claims pretty early. So
oh
in my
yeah.
first year, I probably, you know, filled out forms and dropped off checks for 7 or 8 people.
That
And
would have
that
been
really wakes
informative.
you up. Yeah.
I would
Yeah, it
think
really wakes you
so.
up. Yeah. Yeah.
How did that impact you as a young person when you're face to face with death
Yeah.
and the impact of the financial impact as well?
Yeah. Um, I'd say I have a bit of a Stoics mentality when it comes to that generally, that,
Mhm.
there's the life and the death. And so I'm not too I'm not afraid of that part. And I do think it needs to be, best accepted and looked
Yeah.
after well. So I actually felt very honored to be part of that process.
Oh,
And people, of course, were gracious about it because I was trying to help them.
yeah.
And Michelle, mostly those were older people.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a assuredness or I don't know, security for people. But the $10,000 policy that they bought 40 years ago doesn't have that much impact today, but still the family was happy to have it. But I had a few claims that were substantial and for younger people, and that really woke me up. So one business owner, who was a client of mine, and this goes back 35 years, he had taken out a $900,000 worth of life insurance with me. He actually took out a $100,000 policy, realized that after he had some bank loans for his business and stuff, he needed more. It was $900,000. Within a year, he had passed away in a single car rollover.
Oh my
And
goodness.
when I delivered that check to his wife, I mean, that was life changing.
Yeah.
And yeah, yeah. And her whole family was kind of involved. So it was just so touching to get
hmm
called by them and
hmm
anyway, yeah. So it's good work and a lot of the policies we did back then or I was doing back then were disability policies or critical illness policies. So I had a business owner where he had a heart attack. He was only in his early 50s, had a heart attack, got a $250,000 check to help with things at that point, and then was getting 5,000 a month as a disability benefit,
hmm
tax free.
hmm
That's really meaningful, right?
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. You know,
yeah,
hearing a few words that are really standing out for me. It all started with the insurance was attractive because it was helping people. And you said, I felt honored to be a part of it.
yeah,
And then the piece that I'm hearing that I think gave some meaning to you was the assuredness and the security that came from the policy itself and for the survivors. Am I hearing that accurately?
yeah, yeah, yeah. And different kinds, right?
Yeah.
We had a neighbor pass away. It'd be 20 years ago, but he passed away. The only insurance he had was a small amount from work. And, our community did fundraising for the family. It was before, modern technology allowed
Before
that to happen.
GoFundMe's were a thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What a tough
Oh,
thing. Kids,
yeah.
a mortgage, so yeah, just I really believe in it so wholeheartedly.
Can
When
hear
somebody
that.
passes away, the family could lose everything, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So fortunately, with enough insurance or the right insurance, they get to keep their lifestyle, keep their neighborhood, their house, their
Hmm.
schools,
Hmm.
friends. And so they've already lost one big chunk, right? One of the parents passes away. They get to
Hmm.
keep everything else. It's pretty important. Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear that in your voice, how connected you are with the impact of that check
Yeah.
on the survivors. I can hear that.
Yeah.
You said something, just to pivot a little bit, you said something earlier in the conversation that caught my interest. You said, um, you were when you're in this industry, you were able to help people in integrity in your way. And the words you used were sometimes people lose it through the needs of the industry. Do you remember saying that?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
What did you mean there?
Well, when you're first in the business, you're trying to make a living at it, right? There's a lot of
Mhm.
pressures. It's a stressful business for sure.
Mhm.
And so there's stress on the manager to make sales, to learn everything you're supposed to learn, and you have to make a paycheck. And just very personally, I mean, spend a lot of time. I'd be out of the house 4 nights a week if I could be doing appointments.
Right.
Um, and I always tried to be home at dinner, but otherwise I was out of the house.
Hmm.
And, my long-suffering wife, you know, lived with that. And so if in a week I had met with 5 or 6 families and hadn't done any business, it's tough, right?
Hmm.
So it's easy to lose yourself and manipulate process and add pressure to the sales process to get results. And frankly, you're trained on how to do some of that stuff. And so it's like a measurement stick though.
Hmm.
And so you can do the entire amount and it can be pretty stressful and on the client, or you can kind of scale back. And so I would say that in learning it, I kind of went up and down a bit like a zither, and then kind of ended up where I want to be. So the sales process I used for the last 15 or 20 years was really quite different in that it wasn't stressful in that way at all.
Hmm.
I kind of figured a way to make it personal and make it where I was comfortable with the level of
Hmm.
integrity.
Before we
And
go there,
yeah,
because I want to go there and I want to hear all about that. Um, what was it that gave you the awareness that you were losing yourself? What was there a moment or a period, a time in your journey where you started to feel like something's not quite right?
yeah, yeah. I don't think I ever really lost myself completely, but there are
Hmm.
times when I certainly stretched it.
Hmm.
One of the things we were taught as an example is that people will buy because you're in front of them and they'll never be more likely to buy. So kind of make it happen. And so it's not exactly high pressure, but it's not pressure, you know. And and some of the techniques are meant to kind of put people in corners. And
Yeah.
so so Michelle, I had within just a few months of each other, I remember these two things happening. I remember being at a couple's house. I don't know if they had kids. Yeah, they had kids. And I went in and just had a friendly conversation. They happened to be in the hometown I grew up in. We knew some common people. We were just having a conversation, right? And the gentleman said to me, we've had a few salespeople in here for insurance, and we've never even had a second conversation. But you're different because you're not even talking about insurance. Well, I can't take all credit for that because some of that was just situational for me too. And it wasn't that long before that when I put too much pressure on somebody. Well, I'll take a step back. Sometimes what'll happen is these are the old days in offices, right?
Yeah.
You had little bullpen areas and intercoms and if you put too much pressure on somebody and you convince them to sign an application on some basis, and I would never sell anything that somebody didn't need or couldn't afford. It wasn't
Hmm.
that,
Hmm.
but certainly kind of forced the issue more than I would be comfortable doing it afterward. Um, I'd be in the office and I'd hear on the intercom, call for Mark Kempf on line 3. And you just know it's the person from the night before, right?
Yeah.
No, nobody else is looking for me. And when
Aw,
that person says, Mark, it's Bill, he said, I'm really sorry, but we talked about it. We're not going to go ahead with this. That's like, it just makes me feel lousy, right? It just
yeah.
makes me feel lousy. And so you don't want that to happen. And so that happened a couple of times when I was forcing the issue too much. And I kind of learned how not to after that.
Right? It's so interesting because perhaps what initially drew you to the business was it's the only one that you could help people. It was helping people, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
here you're trying to help people. And when they experience too much pressure, they don't feel helped.
They don't have
And
health at
then
all.
we feel
No.
lousy because we're trying to help. It's like, what happened there? And yet, this is something certainly at a time when you were trained, and even today, these practices still exist, right?
For
Where it's
sure. Yeah.
helping people come to decisions that they're not ready to make,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
so to
But
speak.
it's a very stressful occupation, you know. So
Yeah, yeah.
for the
Well,
book,
that's sorry, we'll go right there.
yeah,
Just to highlight that, it is a stressful, I can see that it's stressful because what's happening is there's a genuine desire to help people, but there's no money because it's paid on commission, and you
right.
still have to live, and you're trying to help people, but you're helping, to your point, you're helping, but you're putting urgency into the equation because of your own needs,
That's right.
right?
Yes. Yeah.
And when
Yeah.
our urgency, it's funny, years and years ago, I was at a conference, and the speaker at the front, she said she had a client, she was a consultant, and she said she had a client who said, I wish all consultants were rich because I would always know they're in integrity. So well said.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? It's when the
Yeah.
financial piece is pushing and putting pressure on the individual selling that
Yeah.
we feel out of integrity, right?
Yeah.
That's when we feel lousy, and our clients know it because they call us back. So your book is called Unfurl Your Sales, and there's
Yes.
what's the subtitle of
Yeah.
it?
I'll just flash
Perfect.
it
Yeah.
briefly, you know, not a big deal. Yeah, the subtitle is Unhurried, Elevated Selling Using the Coin Principle.
The coin
Coin is
principle.
spelled Quoin.
All right. So
A boring ancient word.
tell us about this boring ancient word and when did this book start to birth, if you will? I'm sure it
Yeah.
didn't just happen a few months ago. So tell us about coin, and then I'd like to hear more about how did the book come into being?
Yeah. So, uh, coin. I was reading Moby Dick one day.
Oh,
So if you've read Moby Dick, it's like it's really long and it is an awkward, weird book. I don't know why it got so popular, but anyway, about two-thirds of the way through, I'm reading one of the technical sections, and it's talking about the difference between a wedge and a coin. And so we think of a wedge, like a doorstop, as a wedge, but
mhm.
technically that's not a wedge. That's a coin. A wedge is more like an axe where there's two different sides, you know. And so a wedge actually
Interesting.
splits apart, and a coin actually lifts up, elevates very slowly and gradually. And so I love the idea of selling being that
Oh,
way, that it's being very gradual and almost gentle, and just some algebraic equations that explains why even hitting something with an axe is far less impactful than just a gentle coining action.
yeah.
And the flatter the coin, the actual more pressure there is. So when they made the pyramids, for instance, they would use coins to move things or lift things up. And um, so I just love that image for selling. And the reason
Hmm.
I called it unfurl your sales is for the same thing, is that there's only a few things that we really unfurl, right? And one of them is the sail. So I just like to play on words. And when a sail is lifted up, it's very gradual, slowly, 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 slowly. And when it locks into place, then it fills full of wind, right? And the adventure begins then. That's when the action happens. So it's really just the idea of a sales process being very gradual and slow and progressive and elevated. I just like that idea.
That's beautiful. Are you a sailor?
I'm not. I've been on a sailboat, a dozen times, and I get it. I'm
Yeah.
not really. I can't really say I'm a sailor, but I'm sort of somewhat handy. So if I'm on a sailboat, I tend to be somebody's. doing some of the rigging and,
Yeah. So you have an appreciation for the how a sail moves on a sailboat
I do.
or a
Yeah.
windsurf
Yeah.
or surfing or what have you. Interesting. So at what point in your career did you start to pivot from how you'd been trained in these high, for lack of better language, high pressure sales techniques, if you will, to add
Right.
urgency and get people to a decision, to your softer unfurling and gentle rise
Yeah.
style?
Well, I was in sales for 3 or 4 years, and I went to management for about 3 years. And then I got out of management when I realized I didn't like babysitting people. But I also didn't feel in control of my career then
Mm-hmm.
because regional managers and VPs were in charge of your career then. I just didn't like the feel of that at all. So
Mm-hmm.
I went back into
Interesting.
sales. And I would say once I got back into sales, and maybe a full time, I mean,
Yeah.
and a year or two later, that's when I really started figuring it out. Um, although I started doing a lot more employee benefit work,
Mm-hmm.
plans, and so
Interesting.
that's sort of a different animal too. And there's a different type of urgency to that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's
By
curious
the
to
way,
me. Go
yeah,
ahead.
I was going to say one of the maybe I don't look at today exactly, but I wasn't exactly shy, but I was really understated. Um, kind of sit in the back kind of person, and so I really kind of grew to appreciate that you can kind of control the sales process, but you're not trying to control the person, right? You're just trying to
Mm,
control how it rolls out and how it develops. And one of the things I think I realized back then is that there is just no point pushing for a sale that shouldn't be sold, because there are only three things can happen, right? The person will buy it, or they'll buy it and cancel it, like I talked about, or they'll say no. But when they
hmm
say no, it's done. Or when they buy it and cancel it, it's done.
hmm
So I'd rather have a sale that's 5 years in the making
Yeah.
when that's when the sale should mature, as opposed to trying to make it happen the third time I meet someone or second time I meet someone.
Yeah,
Just
I
makes no
hear.
sense at all.
Really interesting. There's a couple of things that you said that I've kind of noticed that I thought was curious. You started out in sales being trained as a salesperson, then you moved into management and realized that you
And
wanted more career, more control over your career direction. Is that right?
well, it is, and I didn't enjoy the train. I enjoyed the training part in a way, but I never felt like I could do it well enough at it to grow somebody's career.
Nice.
I could develop trust. I could encourage people.
Yeah.
I was good at those things. I was good at explaining some things, but I never really felt like I could mentor them the proper way.
Oh, that's really
So,
interesting. Listen to that.
yeah,
Your desire again to help people and to have that kind of impact. You felt like you couldn't be as effective as you wanted to be. This is a real theme for you, having
I
the
guess it
impact.
is. Yeah.
Yeah, right. It's coming through in
Yeah.
different ways. Um, and the interesting piece here that I thought was having gone from sales into management and having that, because as a manager now, you're aware of teams, you're aware of employees, you're aware of the business structure. And then having gone into the employee benefit piece, because you had your employees, you had your team. So it gave you
Right.
a different lens on what a manager or an HR professional or an entrepreneur might be experiencing.
A little bit, yeah. 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 And where I chose to go back in when I went back into sales, I chose to go into a quite established, but not a
Mm,
long time established brokerage. But the owner was well thought of, and yeah,
mm.
it was good. It was a good home for me for, well, 33 years. It was a good
What,
home for me.
yeah, what was it about the environment in that particular um, opportunity that really supported your career and your growth?
Uh, I think what suited me was that I needed a home that felt sizable and somewhat like a family. So that agency was about 25 people when I joined. It's about 125 now.
Okay.
Uh, but but numbers of employees isn't the issue because that agency could be 500 people if they wanted to be. So that's not
hmm
like the right measurement stick. I just like the fact that it was a group of people. I don't think I was ready. I'm not sure I was ever ready to be an entrepreneur or a sole proprietor of business. I certainly thought of it lots in those 33 years,
Hmm.
if I'd like to do that or go out as a partner. But really, I didn't want any of the nuts and bolts work of running a company.
Just want to help people.
Well, I guess I also know I'd be terrible at it. So, so
Yes, yes. Well, as I like to say, know your strengths and play within them.
yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
know, absolutely. You know, the piece where you were surrounded by a community or family in your language, where there was a group of people who were aligned and there as a part of your
Yeah.
career family, if you will. I heard that as well.
Yeah, yeah. I don't want to overstate it though, because there's good and bad years, right?
Mhm.
And there's things that go on that are, there's a cycle,
Oh yeah,
certainly. So,
as with
yeah.
any.
So
Yeah.
sometimes it was remarkably great, and other times you just kind of grind your teeth through it, and it gets better, and
Hmm.
that just happens, right?
Hmm.
And there's lots of good, honest reasons for that. It's not because
Hmm.
people aren't trying. It's not.
Hmm.
That's just business. So, uh, yeah. Anyway, it was good for me though. I
Yeah,
did need a
exactly.
I did need a place of size.
Uh-huh. Interesting. As I'm reflecting on just this last conversation for the last 30 minutes or whatever it's been, and really just noticing the gentle unfurling of even our conversation,
Hmm.
and noticing that your style is very much around building that sense of security and assuredness and being helpful, and it's got a gentle unraveling to it, which I find fascinating to me as we think about the business that you came from and knowing your own style, being a quieter soul, a shyer
Yeah.
spirit, if you will, and then developing developing your style to better align with what was really important to you, your integrity, your values, and how you how you got to feel good instead of feel bad because your phone didn't ring the next morning.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. It's having all these little inputs that that doesn't feel right, or that felt good. I liked how that was. I'd rather it be a 5-year journey than a pressure point that turns into a no. I genuinely want to help people. Um,
Yeah.
Mark, so as you were developing your coin philosophy, what is it? Explain your coin philosophy for us. I would love to hear more about that. And then I'd
Okay.
also like you, as you're telling that story, tell us a little bit about what informed how you developed it. I'd love to hear that too.
Right. Well, I think it's just how I grew to sell, and
Mm,
how I part of my reason I think I was dumb lucky is because I ended up in an occupation where I was able to have long-term clients.
mm,
And not every sales business is like that. And
right.
I remember being jealous of a family friend's son who was in sales, but he was selling diesel engines to manufacturers. And
Oh,
I thought, wow, it'd be great to be like dealing with corporations and something solid and stuff. And then you realize he's just, he makes some big sale and then disappears in the dust, right?
mm-hmm,
The
mm-hmm,
business, the corporation takes over.
mm-hmm,
And then he has to, go find something else to do.
mm-hmm,
So lucky to have long-term clients, and that's true for life insurance, but especially for the group benefit side.
mm-hmm.
That you just get to know these people over and over and over, and 20 years goes by,
Yeah.
So my philosophy really is just developed from that. There's just a nicer way to do it. I
Mm.
guess it is gentle, but it's just gradual and progressive, I
When you
think.
say
It doesn't.
nice, what do you mean?
Well, it's nicer because it is gentle and because
Okay.
you take your time doing it. Michelle, I don't have to be best friends or even know that much about my clients or who I'm selling.
Mm-hmm.
There just has to be a relationship of trust there, right?
Mm.
That there's warmth there. So, it actually amazed me when I was going around saying goodbye to my clients when I was retiring. What really kind of struck out for me is uh, how warm it was to say goodbye to these people. I was in tears quite often,
Oh.
but I may not even know how many kids they've got,
Mm.
even though I've known them for 15 years. Because it's just not the point, right? The data points aren't important.
Right.
And so I think that's why the selling works. It's just, it is, and I would hope I never lose a client because of anything I've done or
Mm.
any other reason. So in my second to last year, it may have been the end start of my last year, I had a client fire me. Not for anything I did wrong or anything. They just decided to try somebody else. And one of the partners had an idea, sort of thing. And they were really nice. They had planned a Zoom call. Both the partners were on. They
Oh.
talked to me, it was very nice of them. But I mean, that you lose clients because things change,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Businesses are bought and sold and new management, all kinds
Mm-hmm.
of reasons you might lose a client. But to lose one just because that's hard, right? Those
Oh,
are the hard
yeah.
ones. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I'm okay. I'm resilient that way, and I think when in my history I've lost three clients where I've got them back within the year,
That's
and
remarkable.
so I always think that'll happen again. Like I wasn't really, it didn't, but I thought it would
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
might. Um, I can honestly, um, without any having to, well, you know, get my guts to do it. I can call a client 6 months after they let me go at this client and say, "How are things going?" Like I'm
Mm-hmm.
not embarrassed to do that because I have
Mm-hmm.
nothing to be embarrassed
Mm-hmm.
for.
Well,
I don't
especially if
think.
if your intention is to be helpful, genuinely helpful,
Yeah,
then you're just showing care.
yeah,
How's it
yeah,
going, right? To
yeah,
follow up, is it working?
yeah.
See how
It's
it's
kind of
going.
interesting. The HR director of that company had left a couple of years before, and we kept in touch. And in our office, we did HR seminar days
Mm-hmm.
just as a value add. I would invite her, so I'd meet her there, and we would kind of chum around a bit. And then she went back to that place, and it's
Mm-hmm.
about 6 weeks later when they fired me, and she was really upset. So
Yeah.
so it feels good. It didn't help at all, I guess, but it
Yeah,
feels good. Yeah.
exactly.
So I don't think I've answered your question at all about how the coin principle
Mm.
was developed, but
Well, you're starting to.
yeah,
You're getting into it, but I'd love to hear a little, just give us a little, summary of what the coin principle is about,
yeah.
so that we can
Well,
better understand.
right. Well, I appreciate that. I'll read the
Mhm.
definition, but I don't know that it quite captures it all either. But the
Okay.
definition is the use of a gradual guiding technique to influence direction and lead to intended appropriate permanent decisions and actions. Just what we've been talking about, right?
Right.
Yeah. And so
Interesting.
that's the principle.
Yeah.
But the theory really is that every moment you spend with a prospect or a client is part of the continuum. So that how I treat someone the first time I say hello to them is going to
Hmm.
be just the way I'm saying hello to them later. I get to know
Right.
them better.
Right.
I may do some mirroring or some other thing so they feel more comfortable with me, but
Right.
I'm not being fake.
Hmm.
And then it's just part of the same process.
Hmm.
Uh, and I've had sales that took 10 years for very good reasons.
Hmm.
And others that happened right away.
You said something earlier that I think is it's nuanced but so important. As I'm imagining, I will never not imagine now unfurling a sail with the wind and the sailboat. And you talked about you can control how it rolls out, or you can control the process with which the sail is unfurling, if you will. You can't control the wind, you can't control the outcome of what the sail is actually going to do once it's in position, but you can try to put it in position. Is that what I'm understanding from you? Is that
Yeah,
right?
yeah, it
Just
is. Yeah, and so yeah, not to get too sales centric, but
right.
in the sales process, a couple of ways this gets expressed is so. For instance, a mistake that I would have made 30 years ago, and many salespeople would make forever, is
Mm,
if I met a company and the owner said to me, "I hate our insurance guy. Like he's not doing his job, he's whatever.
mhm.
You seem like a nice guy and you came recommended. How about you look after my group plan?" Anyone would leap at that like a dog at a treat, right? An ill-trained dog. And it's the exact opposite of what you should do.
Yeah.
So I would sit back and start asking questions. And I mean, I may do a 2 hour sales process in 30 minutes, but I'm going to cover it all because I want
Hmm.
that person to know that they're not just getting somebody not
Right.
George,
Right.
you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and they'll know what I can do for them. So we talk it through and I find out what they actually need and what they're interested in, what's working, what's not. And then we start to build it. But I would just want them to be aware of it. So my favorite line for this, and I think I knew something like this, but I written a book last year, and it is common next steps are. So just say the common next steps are how we do it, and just walk them through the process. But that's after, we've had a
Yeah.
good long talk. So that's one way that it's expressed. And another way is if in a meeting, uh, if the prospect wants to talk about what's bugging them, or sometimes they don't want to talk about what's bugging them, you know, then we just have to have a conversation, you know.
Hmm.
So if somebody said, um, yeah, I'm bugged about, I'll say, what's the best and worst things about your plan right now,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And they'll tell me a few
Exactly.
things, and I'll say, okay, so on the point that's bugging you, um, where do you think the issue is? I'm not trying to get anyone in trouble because really, the last thing I want to do is slag the other broker.
Hmm.
Um, I actually want to never slag the other broker.
Right.
Not because have so much integrity that I wouldn't do it. It's not exactly that. It's also most effective,
Hmm. Hmm.
and it's in their mind. It doesn't have to be in mine.
Hmm.
But if so, I'll give you I'll give you an example. I went to see a prospect for the first time. I asked who the broker was in the first 15 or 20 minutes sort of thing. They told me who it was. They'd already told me about a problem they were frustrated with that wasn't getting resolved by the broker. And that's why I asked the name of the broker, in case I knew them.
Mm.
And my response was, because I knew the guy, I said, he's a really knowledgeable,
Mm.
experienced guy. Um, I wonder if it's a miscommunication,
Mm.
not a refusal to offer service.
Hmm.
And that's just wise on my part, right?
Hmm.
Because if
Hmm.
I jump at that and stuff, they're not going to go forward. They're going to
Hmm.
solve it with that guy, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I said to them, would you do me a favor? Your renewal's not for 6 months. So would you contact him again? Be very explicit about the problem and what you need. I'm going to call you a month before your renewal. And if he hasn't resolved it by then I'm willing to look at your stuff.
Hmm.
But until then, I don't want to look at it. So that's controlling the process, right?
Hmm.
Because otherwise, you're just out of control on the process.
Right. And
But
interestingly, I think, you know, I see a lot when I work with a lot of insurance advisors, and
okay,
it's very, very common for me to see this sense of urgency or staying true to the process, but the process is to get the sale, not to build the rapport, the connection, and to actually create a value proposition. It's to get the sale, right? I see that a lot. And I'm wondering, it's very clear here in this conversation that what you've done is you've pivoted away from a process to get the sale and you move towards a process to create connection and truly be in service. What allowed you to do that in your career? Because it's not that it can be uncommon. People fear that there's a sense of resistance. It's like, no, I don't have time. They might go somewhere else. The long game isn't always going to work, or it takes too long. These are things that I
yeah,
hear. How did you orient yourself around the slow and gentle unfurling of the
yeah.
process?
Um, I think pragmatically, mostly, that it's just the best way to do it. I don't know that I don't, I don't know is because I want to be over the top, goody two shoes about it necessarily. I
Mm.
do think it just is the best way. And so then it just becomes a right. And because I believe in having clients for life. So if you
Uh-huh.
think of just those two things, yeah,
That's
yeah,
an right, but believe in having clients for life. And you said the you wanted long-term clients. You envied the guy who was selling machinery earlier, and you're like, wait a minute, that doesn't sound like such a great opportunity because
yeah,
I
yeah,
value family. That's a word you used earlier. I value long-term clients. I value my relationships. And that's a really rewarding part of your work.
absolutely
So as
is.
you
Yeah.
leaned into that, you thought, okay, what do I have to do to make sure that I get the benefit? of these relationships for the 30, 40 years that you were in your business.
Yeah. 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 So it's how you do it their way, right? I mean, or you do it to help them and their and what's best for them.
Yeah. And
Um,
you can see as you what I'm hearing from you is what has allowed you to differentiate yourself is very much around who you wanted to be in the relationship with your clients,
right.
right?
Yeah.
Really paying attention to that, not who do you want to be for their benefit, right? So that you can help them get where they want to go. And that's
Yeah.
often something that we forget to do. I'm sure you see that with your peers and others that you've been helping. They forget about who they want to be and they just try to be someone that they think is what the others need. What inspired you? And when did you get the idea to write about the coin process?
Yeah. Uh, so when COVID hit,
Mm.
um,
Funny how
I
many
would say
people
for,
say that
yeah,
when
yeah,
COVID
that's true.
happened.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's just good luck for me on that, I
Ah,
think as well.
mm,
The
mm,
so there was a number of years where I was like very busy at work and very stressed, and I wasn't all that happy about the way things were. And um and so I was really just head down, working hard kind of guy,
mm,
And
yeah.
um and so it's not a very happy place to be, right? But
Mm,
it was required. And so I on purpose was kind of putting up my shoulders a bit to indicate that I didn't really have time to for people to drop in my office and chat and
mm,
ask me questions and stuff. I know I was like that a bit. And there's a guy who's a good friend of mine now, and he started at our place. He's not there any longer, but he started our place about 15 years ago. And he said something about it. I said, you weren't like intimidated by me when you started. He goes, oh yeah. He said,
ah,
I said, why? And he said, well, you're really busy and you just didn't really, chat around and you were successful. Like it was just, yeah. Anyway, that's a shame I was like that for a time. But before COVID hit, somewhere along the 3 or 4 years before that happened, and especially after, I spent a lot more time actually trying to. I don't want to use the word mentor because that's not it. Because mentoring is I think a substantial responsibility, and I wasn't taking responsibility, but I was on purpose spending time with people in the office. And so if somebody was newer and struggling, or somebody who'd been there for 5 years and they just knew it wasn't working out,
mhm,
sort of thing, then I would have, take them for coffee or breakfast and have a good
mm,
conversation with them and just
lovely.
see what's going on. And I must say about half the time, people were struggling, but they didn't really care. They didn't really want ideas. They weren't really
Ah,
maturely dealing with it, let's say.
right. Interesting.
Or arrogantly, they were
You
arrogantly
can't help
dealing it.
people who don't want to be helped.
Can it all. Yeah. And so it wasn't that I was unkind to them after that. I just never spent any time with them. But somebody who said, yeah, I'm really struggling. I can't figure this out. And then I would spend some time with them. But again, it was very modest. I was not taking on a
Mm,
mentorship role. I was just trying to be a guide along the path. And so I think when I started um, writing the book, and especially it was because of that coin phrase in Moby Dick that actually it's the most dull phrase, this little section. And it just, honestly, it got me so excited about it
isn't
that
that
that's the
interesting?
key. And it was really like that fits the mold I've already done. I've already
Yeah.
got this
Yeah.
process. That's what fits on top. And so then I started writing. I actually wasn't sure it'd be a book or not, and I wrote way too much. And I made a terrible error, which is I didn't have a guideline for it. So I was
Mm,
just writing, trying to put things together. And Michelle, I would write something, let's say about X, and then it would kind of extend into A, B, and C. And then I'd be in like 6 days later, I'd be writing something on L, and it would start connecting with ABC too. And suddenly I've got four versions of ABC because they're
uh-huh.
all dovetailed with different things, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so that was like a mess to clean up. Yeah, so, yeah. But about halfway through that, partway through that, I thought, yeah, I'd like this to be a book. I'd like this to
Nice.
be a book. I don't know if it'll be a good book or a successful book or any kind of book. Just
Oh,
it'd be a kind of book I'd want to write and get out of my system. And my wife was very supportive of it because she realized, yeah, you need to get that out of your system. One way or the other,
When you say
yeah.
get it out of your system, what is it that you're
Well,
speaking
get all
to?
those ideas down and make some sorted sense out of them and have something to offer somebody, I guess. But really, I just didn't know what happened. With self-publishing is not nearly as easy as the
Mm.
words indicate, but in my head, I thought it was simple.
Sounds good. Well,
And
yeah. Go ahead.
well, so I wrote all down. Our youngest son, he's just as clever as anything, and he has done some editing work. So I gave him an early tra manuscript to do some editing, and it was a mess. And I felt sorry for the guy. And then I changed a bunch of stuff, and we pulled a bunch of stuff out. And I decided that if I was going to talk about selling, then there should be something about goal setting that overlays into it. And I thought that would be like 5 pages. But
Mm,
but I also use the coin principle for goal setting. So that what the corporation, just a little, the easiest way to succinctly say it is that corporation has goals for their people, with
mhm,
everybody, but including the salesperson. And I would say that's your requirement. Like if that's what it takes to keep the job, that's your requirement. It's not your goal at all.
mhm,
Your goal is completely different. Your goal is up to you. It doesn't matter. And the goal could be to have Fridays off. Your goal could be to buy a cottage. It could be almost anything,
mhm,
but that's your goal because that's what's going to turn your crank,
mhm.
not the requirement to keep your job. That's never going to turn your crank, right?
You are so right. I
Yeah,
hear, I always say, okay,
yeah,
that's your job, but what lights you up?
yeah, yeah,
Right?
yeah,
Because
yeah,
you've got a mandate or you've got things that you have to do for your work, and that's part of your craft and mastering your craft. But what really allows the rewarding part to happen is when we overlay our
yeah,
own our own flavor into our craft, right? We
yeah, yeah,
insert ourselves into that and go, oh, what could that look like if it were really an expression of me and who I am, which your
yeah,
book has turned into. That's beautiful. So
yeah.
I love this because you said your book was started out with a lot of ideas and then you made sense of them so that they could help people. And I've heard, I have not written a book, although I have written my blueprint handbook, which is 100 and some odd pages, but it's not a standalone book, so I can't take it. Um, I've heard that when you write a book, it really forces clarity. It
It
really,
does.
it
Yeah,
does. So what was
yeah.
the pivotal moment for you in the book when the ideas became clear and you could make sense of them? Was there a pivotal moment where you're like, oh my gosh, I can see all of this condensed
Uh,
into.
yeah, a little bit. Eventually, I realized it was going to be in 3 parts, three
Okay.
sections, which could have been 3 separate books almost.
Mm,
But and I think that's when it just started to make sense. Sort of like the floating down sort of thing. It kind of
yeah.
made sense at the bottom of the pool. And so the first section is about goal setting largely and the coin principle.
Hmm.
But all of it's again connected as a continuum. Yeah. And then the second section has to do with just sales processes and things. The third section um, is kind of ancillary to that, I guess.
Mm,
So if a meeting's going really badly, what to do about it? If
mm,
this has happened, what to do about it? If you lose a client, what to do about it? There's 50 chapters. The 49th chapter is about if things are really not going well, how you decide to stay in it or get out.
mm,
And if you're going to stay in, here's some tips on how to get out of a slump and
hmm,
get restarted, push the
mm,
restart button.
hmm.
So it kind of goes from initial goal setting all the way to that point.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, yeah.
Is there,
Before I forget, the one thing I'm just going to say this and we can go by it, but the one thing I meant to say, because you use the word urgency quite often
hmm,
and about salesmen being urgent,
hmm,
um, I think urgency is always needed. It just has to be done in a certain way. And urgency usually has to do with how I'm doing my job, not what I'm saying to the client. So it's a level of concentration I have on the moment that matters
mm,
or keeping things moving. So um, I in my office whiteboard, I'll use that example. There's a salesman in our office, three doors down from me. He had great big whiteboards, and he had three or four of them, I can't remember now, around his office. Like one on a chair. They were full of names. Like
Oh my
anybody he
goodness.
might talk about to was on these whiteboards. He came to my office one day, and my whiteboard the title says, "Who gets to be next?" And it's just the only three, four, or five companies that might possibly be in the closing phase in the next
Right.
foreseeable future. So it's just concentrating on those three, four, or five people, because that's where the sales are going to come from. But it's not because I'm pushing them. It's just that it's
Right.
matured, right? The the the,
Mm,
the fig has matured. Now it can be
it's
picked.
ready. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And so as you're really nuancing urgency here. And so when is urgency healthy and when does it get in the way?
Well, it gets in the way when you're ahead of the prospect.
Ah,
Um, and it gets in the way when you're ahead of what's best for the prospect. Um, and and that's why a long sale is just fine with me, because
hmm
sometimes it's just situational. I call it mechanical. It's a mechanical structure that means the sale can't happen today. And it may not happen for 5 years.
hmm
Um, and then if it can't happen for 5 years, make a plan. What are you going to do in that 5 years to make sure you're the one that gets that sale 5 years from now? That's the sales process, right?
Right.
The urgency is making the plan and then following the plan. And um, and then being the one that's in front of them that matters to them when it happens.
Mm,
Um, and so there's lots of ways of doing that,
right.
but that is the long game sale. And it's not a trick, it's not a long game con.
Yeah.
It's just, it's being the proper person at the right time.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I have examples of that I won't get into, but anyway, I've thrown you off your
No, 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 this is perfect. Just even your nuancing of urgency is really speaking to the gentle unfolding of the process. You said urgency is unhealthy or ineffective when you're ahead of your client or prospect, when you're ahead of the process. So when it's not a match, right? You're trying to get somewhere where they're not ready for. But when the urgency is following the plan and being in front of your client or prospect when they're ready.
Yeah.
Is that what I heard?
Yeah, yeah,
It
yeah.
really speaks to your style. I just love this conversation, Mark. Throughout the entire conversation, you've used such gentle language, which speaks to the unfurling of your whole career. It's
Yeah.
lovely. So beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah. Is there anything that you feel as you think about this conversation and how it's matured on this slow ripening journey? Is there anything that stands out for you that you might like to highlight today or speak to?
Um, I'm just going to give one little plug for my book that's not about
Sounds,
everything else we've talked
oh,
about.
good. Tell us about it.
But
hmm
the reason I want to say that is all this stuff only works if you can be effective when you're doing it,
Yeah.
right? So and many people could try to do this and not be effective at it. And I
hmm
think that's actually the magic trick is that being like I am, working how I do, may not mean any sales, right?
hmm
So there has to be a way to do it effectively that gets you to the right door at the right time. Um,
hmm
uh, so I think that's what the book actually, where its strength is. I don't think if somebody's hyper aggressive, um, for instance, I compare success and accomplishment as two different things.
hmm
So I think it's successful as a axe move, really. Like it's, what's the result and success can be all the best things, right? Can be an
hmm
income for your family and they have the lifestyle you want. But success, usually, when people are highly successful, you don't think of it in those terms, right? You think of it as big money, big cars, big
hmm
houses,
hmm
whatever. That's just sort of what success means. Accomplishment is a whole different thing. It may actually end up with the very same number of sales or same income or whatever, but it's the satisfaction of doing a job well, that leads to accomplishment, right? And so that's not success
No.
because somebody could sell a million, earn $1 million in a year doing the wrong thing, and they probably won't feel very accomplished.
Right.
They'll probably tell everyone how they're successful, but they won't feel accomplished. Again, I think that's the what the book does. It just lays all that out. It's not for everybody, of course.
Yeah.
But I do think it's unique that way. There are a lot of books that talk about slow selling and being less stressful sort of
Hmm.
thing.
Hmm.
But they don't talk about it in these terms, and I'm not against how they do it either.
Hmm. Hmm.
But it's just not quite this way.
So,
Anyway,
Unfurl Your Sales is for those who are wanting to experience feelings of accomplishment in their career as
yeah,
they develop their efficacy or to become more effective at what they do. Is that what I'm
yeah,
hearing?
it is. Yeah, yeah. And I do think it's be a helpful book for somebody starting in sales or within the first 2 to 3 years in sales. But
Hmm.
I really think the strength of it is for people that have been at it for 10 years or more
What I'm
and are
hearing.
just not getting what they should out of the career, right?
Right,
They've
exactly.
never, yeah, never figured it out, or they can't push back on how they're being told to do things,
Hmm.
um, or they just haven't got a clue how to do it better.
Yeah. They may be successful but unsatisfied,
Yeah,
right? Because they're
yeah,
not getting that experience that they're looking for. And hence, that's why your career has been so rewarding for you.
it has been.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
beautiful.
lucky me, eh?
Right? And well, you've used that word several times now in this conversation. And so there is
Yeah,
certainly some luck. And
yeah,
luck is often, when we're prepared for it, good things happen.
yeah, yeah. I usually say I feel very lucky, fortunate to have
Mm,
been given this career, but I don't feel lucky that it's worked out as well as it has. That takes a lot of hard work, and
there you go. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's both,
yeah.
right? We have to
It's
put in, sure, luck, we all have luck at times, but um, if we don't generate, if we don't pull ourselves up and do the work needed to create the results from the luck, then we're not going to experience that sense of fulfillment.
no, no,
Yeah,
not at
that's
all.
beautiful. So where might people be able to find your book and find you if they would like to experience more wisdom from Mark?
Yeah. Well, thank you. So the best thing is just buy the book on Amazon.
Okay.
Um,
Amazon, and that is it on .com and .ca or
it is, yeah,
okay? Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Perfect. Unfurl Your
Um,
Sales. Mm-hmm.
yeah. If you want to find me, you can find me on LinkedIn. I
Okay.
think I'm the only Mark Kempf that's in Ontario. So,
Okay.
and then there is also a website, unfurlyoursales.com.
Perfect.
Um, I have no impact on Google, so I think you have to actually plug it into the URL bar to
Mm,
get a hit.
mm-hmm.
But and you can reach me through that as well. There's a email there if you
Perfect.
want. But yeah, LinkedIn's probably as good as anywhere. So
Thank you. That's beautiful. Mark, it has been a treat to hear the unfurling of your own career and how that has impacted the results and how you're helping people today. I really loved how you said, you just want to help people who want to be helped and be a guide along the path and support others to really experience
mm,
what's meaningful to them and how honored you are to be a part of that process.
yeah.
So it's been an absolute delight getting to know you. Thank you
Well,
for
thank
sharing
you.
yourself with us today. Bye for
Thanks,
now.
Michelle. Thank you. Bye.